This is firefighter Raphael Poirier for Firehouse Subs, introducing the new Firehouse Pub Steak Sub with savory steak, crispy fried onions, and our rich Belgian beer cheese sauce. On tap for a limited time. Order yours at firehouseSubs.com today. Remember, a portion of every sub you buy helps provide life-saving equipment for first responders. Firehouse Subs. Enjoy more subs, save more lives. Limited time only, plus tax. Participating locations. Firehouse Subs will donate a minimum of $1 million in 2018 to the Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation by donating 0.13% of every purchase.
Tonight. Alright! We're gonna have a TV party, alright! Tonight! We've got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews. Everybody's gonna hang out here tonight! Alright! We'll pass out on the couch, alright! Tonight! We've got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews. Don't talk about anything else. We don't want to know. We're dedicated to our favorite shows.
And tonight, our favorite show is Ozark, Season 2, brought to you by the good people at Jason Bateman and Netflix.
Wonderful.
And that chuckling you hear, of course, is my co-host for the evening, the man who pitched me on Ozark, and I'm ever so grateful. Ladies and gentlemen, Jesse Starcher. How do you do, sir?
So MoviePass sent me an email Saturday. Can you believe this?
Hang on, I was scratching my nose when you said MoviePass, and I missed my line. Cue me again. Say MoviePass.
So MoviePass.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
We're not talking MoviePass tonight. As much as I wanted to rail against them and do an immediate podcast, when they sent me an email saying, "Hey, by the way, we'd love for you to come back, and we would love to give you the same plan you signed up for, so long as we have existing inventory," whatever the fuck that is. Like, they have the movies sitting there that they can just go ahead and, this is existing inventory. Like, you're walking into damn Walmart.
I was going to say, like, it's a fucking Blockbuster video.
Hello, the 90s called. Go fuck yourself. All right. So,
can I go ahead and say that we're not going to do a MoviePass podcast every time you get an
email? That would be like 20 podcasts deep right now if that was the case.
I was going to go with a bee in your bonnet, but sure.
We're not here to talk about MoviePass, Mark Radulich. We're here to talk about Ozark and Season 2.
This is not the Screaming Boy podcast. This is not Damn You Hollywood. This is TV Party Tonight. We are here to talk some TV. Do you talk TV? I talk TV. So does Rekgar.
This is a reference I don't understand.
God fucking damn it, dude.
Rekgar? Is this off like Space Ghost Coast to Coast?
You know what? If it was a He-Man character, you'd have fucking known it, you homo.
It sounds like a fucking He-Man character. Rekgar.
Eric Idle. Transformers. Goddamn.
All right.
You don't remember that? You don't remember the Transformers the movie with the Junkions and Rekgar?
I got it.
Actually, I said it was Eric Idle. Wait, no, it is Eric Idle. Now I gotta look it up. God damn it. Look what you made me do. Transformers, the movie.
I'm looking at it here. Sorry, wait. I had to put you on mute. The kids, believe it or not, I started talking and the kids came downstairs.
I don't believe it.
Immediately needed something. Rekgar. I'm looking to see who played him. This is the freaking Transformers wiki. I spelled it all wrong. Boy, we are podcasting like professionals tonight.
Yes. We are here to talk about Ozark, so don't mind our 20-minute sidebar on Transformers the movie, because Jesse didn't get yet another one of my references.
I just need to learn to keep my mouth shut and move on. What I need to do.
You need to convince me that you understood what I fucking said and just go with it.
You know, I sat there and did a freaking commentary with you guys on that movie. Sorry, I'm looking at the pictures right now.
It's Eric Idle. I was right. Wow, that was a complete waste of time. Well, let's move on.
Congratulations, it was Eric Idle.
Yes. So, Eric Idle in the movie says, "Do you talk TV? I talk TV." And then the guy who plays Cup, the worthless Autobot, he goes, "I talk some TV, and now the news. Don't touch that dial." And the Junkions had a circle jerk after that.
The Junkions.
What came out of their Transformer penises?
Oh no! Tell me.
Junk.
Oh,
get it? Because they're the Junkions. Get it?
I get it, man. How do we even expect to have listeners at this point? I mean, it's like we just continue to torture them week in and week out. All right, so we got to get back to the subject at hand. What are we talking about again?
We're talking Ozark. Now, you pitched me on this show last year. This is season 2. You can refresh our listeners. Why the fuck did you make me watch this?
Oh, I remember sitting there hearing a lot of comparison to Breaking Bad when this first dropped. And this was...
Hashtag white people.
Oh, yes. Hashtag Chris Meth. I have no idea why I said that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm reaching. No, what I was looking at, social media was ablaze when this dropped, and it took me by surprise because I wasn't ready for really watching much of anything that Jason Bateman was in, and I don't even recall like the last time I'd seen anything with him. I didn't watch. There was a show he was in, and I cannot even remember off the top of my head what it was called.
Valerie's Family, Watchmen, V for Vendetta.
Valerie's Family. What the hell is that? Anyway,
you never saw Valerie or Valerie's Family?
I know Valerie, but I don't recall Valerie's Family.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. It was the Hogan Family.
Oh, okay. So
he was also in, as far as TV shows, he was also in.
This is a very popular one.
I want to say it's Curb Your Enthusiasm, maybe.
No, it's not Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Arrested Development.
There you go, Arrested Development. So anyway, I never watched that show, so I didn't know much about his acting ability. I've seen him in a few things. I mean, specifically, what was he in? Teen Wolf 2? So that
yes.
Right there, that there is probably the most prominent role that I remember him from before we started watching season 1 of Ozark. So anyway, a couple guys chimed in and they were like, "Man, you need to check this show out." So I was like, "All right." So me and the wife sat down. We watched, I think, the first 2 episodes, and immediately I was like, "Okay, yes, this is a great show. We have a family dynamic involved with crime, and a man who's trying to save his life, all the while trying to make the Mexican cartel happy, so they would not come and kill him and his family. So they moved to the Ozarks in order to try and launder money. And we had a very compelling first season, I believe, and our second season picks up. I didn't know if they were going to be able to do as well with the second season as they did with the first. But we're here. I'm here to tell you tonight, I think it's just as good. So we'll get into it.
Yeah, the comparisons to Breaking Bad are pretty solid. You know, it's another suburban white family in the throes of dealing with the criminal underworld. You know, in this particular case, instead of being a drug dealer, Marty who's Jason Bateman, is a money launderer. And the first season really revolved around him trying to make up the money that was skimmed by his partner, who was then murdered by the Mexican drug cartel. And what Marty really does excel at is thinking on his feet and coming up with grand schemes to get his ass out of the fryer. Mm-hmm. The problem is, just like with Breaking Bad, and in a lot of these shows that deal with, the deal with people, Weeds being another one, where you have suburban white people just in over their heads in the criminal underworld, is things quickly get out of hand. because they're not, in their hearts, though though the woman in weeds might be slightly less so in this description, they're not really criminals at heart.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're people who made some bad decisions, and they're trying to figure it out, and like they're not utterly given to the lack of ethics that, you know, the criminal underworld sort of inspires. It's funny. There's another show that I really enjoy watching that just got renewed for a third season. It's called Snowfall, which deals with how the CIA brought crack to Los Angeles, sold cocaine in Los Angeles, which then turned to crack, and how the crack epidemic started. And this was to fund illegal wars in South America during the Reagan administration. And even though one of our main characters is in fact a pot dealer, he's got certain parameters on his behavior that are, you know, that over the course of 2 seasons were just chipped away at until suddenly he has to fully embrace being a criminal boss. Mm-hmm. If he's to ever succeed in this world, he has to fully embrace the fact that he's got to do unsavory things. And ultimately, that's where Walter White got to. That's where the Byrde family finally comes to. You know, at least Laura Linney, even more so than Marty. You know, this season really does focus on sort of Laura Linney coming out as the queen of the Ozark underworld empire.
Yeah.
By the end of it.
Yeah, her, I wouldn't say manipulation, but her way of dealing with things, you could see she had quite the background already established dealing with politicians, and that is one of the things that they focus on in here, her strengths. She had to use those to try and sway some votes, and that all factors into the season because, you know, pretty much the bulk of what they're trying to do is get a casino opened in order to launder this money, and that takes a lot of political swag to do. So she starts using her ability and experience that she's had in the past to do that. And you see this lady really take a strong position, number one, not only in the family, but also in the situation that they're in. But you got to remember, folks, you know, if I remember correctly, it was the first episode of season 1, and this puts a tremendous spin on this family dynamic. Laura Linney's character, Wendy, was caught cheating on her husband, by her husband. I think her husband hired a PI.
Yep.
And you know, he was watching a video of her screwing another guy while she was cooking dinner, if I remember right. So then all the stuff happens with the Mexican cartel, and they're on the road, and he has to come to grips with that. Okay, he's got a family that he has to support, but he has this woman by his side that really betrayed him. And of course, in season 1, we covered a lot of that, them trying to deal with that relationship. Where we start in season 2, that first episode, they're dancing together at this. You could tell it's some kind of high end gala for sure. They're all dressed up, and there's a lot of people that look like they're wealthy. But anyway,
there's an important aspect of this. In the beginning of this season, they are on the same page. We need to get the Mexicans their money. We need to get this casino up and running, and then that's it. Debt paid. It's time to move on, you know, and save our family. By the end, over the course of the season, they move. You know, one of them is trying to move towards this goal. The other one is moving away to the point where they are on utterly 180 degrees separated from one another.
Yeah.
And you have Laura Linney, who basically realizes that this is an opportunity to become mob bosses, essentially. And Marty, who was like, I just wanted to be done with this.
Yeah, that was the whole point, was to get out of there. I mean, most of what he was doing was try to work on a plan to at least get away and get his family to safety so they wouldn't be found.
Right.
And get out of the situation that they're in. Laura Linney or Wendy, on the other hand.
Even last season, it ends with him saying, look, I'll take the weight for everything. I'll do everything. You guys go be free and clear. And they decided it was much more important to be a family. Which the irony of that is how this season goes, especially with Charlotte, who is the daughter who tries to emancipate yourself. But we're all over the map here. Let me quickly sum up this where we left it with season 1. I'll sum up season 2, and then we'll just kind of go through the cast list here and talk about. It's a very rich cast, and unlike a lot of the other shows where we kind of just hit on a few people that had something to talk about, like with a lot of the Marvel shows, the whole main cast, there's a lot going on here, and it's worth getting into all of them. So essentially, at the end of season 1, by this point, Marty and his machinations have utterly disrupted the Ozark heroin trade. The way they had been doing it was, unbeknownst to the local preacher man, Mr. Mason, they were distributing heroin on the lake during his sermons through Bibles. And through Marty's machinations with the preacher, where he was going to build him a church and all of that, which then raised the ire of the Snells, who were heroin farmers. Marty ends up running afoul of the Snells, and unfortunately, Mason's wife is killed while pregnant, though the baby is somehow saved. Like I said, ultimately, Marty, who is a valuable commodity to the Mexican drug cartel because he's their money launderer and he owes them money, and the Snells, need a distributor for their heroin after Marty done fucked that up on the lake. The Mexicans come to an agreement with the Snells after Marty pitches the idea of the casino. So they'll have this casino. The Mexicans will distribute the heroin from the Snells, and the Mexicans will then be able to launder money through the casino. Everybody's happy so long as everybody doesn't fuck somebody else. In the middle of all of this, Del, who is the Mexican drug connection in the first season, makes a snide remark about the Snells, and then is summarily shot by the hot-tempered Mrs. Snell, Darlene. And that's kind of where it's left. We opened with that this season, and so the first thing that the first, it's just a series of things blowing up, and so the first minor blow up is they have to deal with the consequences of Del being killed in cold blood, which is ultimately dealt with by them killing one of their own, them being the Snells. They kill Ash. Mm-hmm. This sets up a divide between Jacob Snell and Darlene Snell, where Darlene is forever angry, betrayed by Jacob for having killed Ash, and now she's singularly obsessed with having a baby of her own. They got to replace Ash. Meanwhile, Jacob is just trying to keep the peace and keep the heroin business flowing. Once that's kind of dealt with, the bulk of the season focuses on the political machinations of the Ozarks, and we get to see that through the lobbying process to get this casino created. Okay? So Marty's got to buy a boat, and then they've got to get the cap on casinos lifted, then they got to get approved by the Gaming Commission, and so more and more characters are introduced over the course of the season to help move that plot line along. And again, we're able to see where Laura Linney makes some very unsavory choices in blackmailing people and extorting them and such in order to get the casino up and running. Along the way, we still have an FBI investigator who attempted to turn Ruth's brother into a CI. That went badly. That also bleeds into the storyline with Ruth, where she ultimately killed the brother, who ends up being the CI. So there's that whole plot line where the investigator is now looking for a new CI, which he finds in Rachel, who left after stealing some of the money out of the wall at the Blue Cat. She's off partying. She gets fucked up. She ends up in an accident. She gets like 3 felony charges. So he uses that. The FBI investigator uses that to manipulate her into being a CI for him. Doesn't go nearly as well as he wanted it to, and ultimately she outs him as an FBI operative. Mm-hmm. There's also sort of like a burgeoning romance between Marty and her that they flirt with, but doesn't really go anywhere. The last thing that the major plot line of this is Ruth's daddy is home from prison.
Cade, that shithead. Gosh.
Cade is home, and he's still after Marty's money, or what he thinks is Marty's money, and he's still very short-sighted and abusive and all of these other things, and so there's subplots revolving around him and Ruth. By the end of the season, the FBI, the casino gets up and running, but in doing so, they're playing loose and fast with agreements with the Kansas City mob. Mm-hmm. Jacob has been killed by Darlene when he was trying to kill her, so there was a double cross. The pastor has been killed after trying to take Laura Linney hostage.
Gosh.
Killed by Marty. And so the baby, who was at first being raised by the Byrdes, ends up being traded to Darlene for her agreeing to back off and allow the casino to happen. Cade, in a fit of rage and trying to get Marty arrested, ends up killing the FBI investigator after he done quit the case.
Yeah, this guy was just want to do some fly fishing. End his time in the Ozarks on the right note, and Cade decided that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, when Marty basically blackmails the FBI agent into backing off, he gives over the case. He basically says, look, it's a win-win for anyone that's going to pursue this, because the Kansas City mob's now involved, and so if the casino falls, you go after Marty before the Mexicans kill him. If the casino rises, you now have a shot at the Kansas City mob. And so there's your setup for season 3, by the way. He goes fly fishing. Cade goes to talk to him. He says, "You got nothing for me." Cade, in a fit of rage, ends up killing him. And so Cade is then allegedly paid by Laura Linney with Mexican money to get the fuck out of town. And then is subsequently killed by the Mexican mob, and they take their money back.
We'll take that, thank you.
Ruth is ever more connected to Marty. She's sort of, adopted into the family. Charlotte attempts to get herself emancipated, and they didn't really resolve that. It just doesn't happen. And then they take a picture as a family in front of the casino boat.
Yeah.
But that's kind of her thing. The son doesn't really have a story this season. He had, I think, much more of an arc in the first season. This season, he's just kind of there, and shit happens to him.
Yeah, he's one of the smarter ones when it comes to. I guess he was kind of the impetus that got them thinking of a way of getting out of there, because he's learning from his dad how to launder money, but he ends up setting up his own bank account, and he becomes integral to the part where they use that bank account to kind of do an anonymous donation, and then they were going to launder their own money, their own getaway money through it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, as far as character depth, there wasn't really a whole lot other than just he's going to end up much like his dad.
Where it's left. As I said before, the casino is up and running. Darlene has the pastor's baby. The FBI agent is dead and buried in the waters of the Ozark. Kate is shot dead in the street by the Mexican mob. Jacob is gone, killed by Darlene. And even though they had planned to escape to the Gold Coast, Laura Linney flat out says that they're staying, and they are now the seedling of a new Ozark mob. They are essentially the front for the Mexican mob in the Ozarks.
Women
ruin everything.
Well, all right. Where do you want to start, Mark?
Let's talk about Marty first. Let's talk about good old Jason Bateman. So, he, what I like about his character, and I want to get your take on this, is what makes this kind of fun for me, and what makes him an interesting character, is he's seemingly in every episode backed into a corner, and his superhuman power, his mutant power, is his ability to think his way out of things. And I think my favorite scene of his this year was he's promised the Kansas City mob earlier in the season the casino will be a union shop. That's what convinces them to let the casino happen, right? Then fast forward a few episodes, and they're meeting with the game commission, and the game commission says, this is a right to work state. This is an important thing. This can't be a union shop. And they said, okay. They've essentially said that you can either go through the green door or the red door, and Jason Bateman says yes.
That sounds familiar.
Which one do you want? Do you want the left, right? You want the left hand or the right hand? Yes.
Yes. I'll take both. Yeah, he really did himself no favors by setting that up. And because there's going to be payback from... It's like which devil do you want to have to deal with?
Yeah, which arm do you want broken? Your left one or your right one? Yes.
Yeah. If the if the gaming commission says no and this casino doesn't get built, he has to deal with the Mexican cartel. If it does and he promises the non-union jobs, then he's going to have to deal with the Kansas City mob. So he's back. He's basically in a corner, and that, just like you said, that's where season 3 is going to pick up.
Right.
But why did you like that? Because he gets a visit, doesn't he?
That's what I was getting to. Okay.
Yeah.
So after the whole thing with the gaming commission, and the word gets out that the Kansas City mob is going to get iced out of union jobs, he pays Marty a visit, and he shows up with one of his heavies. And Jason Bateman, who plays this character, I don't know if you saw Game Night, but Game Night's another one where he's just this. He's exactly what the society wants white men to be. Just even-toned, very mellow, non-insulting, non-provocative, just mellow, easy, earth tones. That's what... Okay? They want all white men to just be smoke. just easy does it. And he does it. And he does that so well. The world, he's been shot, the world is on fire, he's having, I'm talking specifically about Game Night. Everything is going wrong, and he doesn't even raise the volume of his voice. He's not monotone, but he's like, Jason Bateman is the picture of the most non-threatening white man you've ever seen.
That's true.
Just middle to upper class, white, non-threatening. Perfect. That's Jason Bateman. And he actually loses his temper in the scene, but he does so in the funniest way. He's got his arms folded. The guy from the KC mob's right next to him, and he's like, "What are you gonna do? You gonna beat me up? Is that what you're gonna do? No, what you're gonna do is you're gonna leave my office and let me do my goddamn job."
Yeah.
This guy doesn't. Marty.
He doesn't crack at all throughout the season, no matter what the the problems are that continue to mount upon his family and the situation with both the Snells and the Mexicans. So he just does not crack. And as a matter of fact, I think it's Ruth and Rachel, when they're together, they're poking fun at how Marty handles things, like like which position is better for sex tonight, and he'd break out a spreadsheet trying to figure out which one it is, because he's almost that boring. But man,
you and I were talking about marital discourse, just fighting with your wife. And some of my favorite little nuances in his performance are these discussions that he has with Laura Linney, who plays Wendy Byrde, and he just kind of goes, well, yeah, that's just the way it is, and then just pulls the sheet on and goes to sleep. like Laura Linney clearly wants to have a Fight Club-esque fight in the backyard, she's
ready.
She is just amped up and ready to go, and he's just like, well, spreadsheets, smoke, white people, Wonder Bread, and then goes to bed. You're like, well, wow, okay.
Yeah, they get into a big argument, and I think that because she's obviously feeling the pressure as well, and I think one of the things that he says, he's like, this is how I deal with things. I go and get shit done. This is what I do. And it's like people are just wanting him to crack and throw somebody up against the wall or something.
Right.
That's not him, though.
This is not Walter White, who's going to create a chemical concoction, and throw it at you like a fucking grenade.
That's right. As many comparisons to Breaking Bad we can make, Jason Bateman's character, Marty Byrde, is probably not one of them. The situation may be the same, but the character is completely different,
right.
I think.
And I think that's what I love about him is, as this vanilla white bread honky, he, that's just his thing. He's cool as the other side of the pillow, even when he's in situations where he's clearly out of his depth.
Yeah. I'll give you my favorite moment from Marty here. During the season, I think, and this kind of ties in, because we've got to talk about Mason here later. I mean, he might pop up here, and I definitely want to get it out before we end the podcast. But after their encounter with Mason, and Marty has to make the decision to try and save his wife, so he shoots Mason, and I don't think he intended to kill him in any way. That wasn't his plan. I don't know if Marty's. I don't know if I've ever seen him shoot a gun on this show. Has he? Up to that point?
No, up to that point, no.
Okay, and you could tell because he didn't know what the hell he was doing. He shoots Mason, and he shoots Mason in the neck. I think he probably aimed for the shoulder, but shot him in the neck to where he's going to lose blood and die. And anyway, that moment right there, from that point forward, that's where you start to see the cracks in Marty's veneer.
Yeah, I think, and he even talks about that in the next episode where he was like, we put certain parameters on ourselves, lines that we would never cross, and we crossed them. Mm-hmm. We killed a man. You can justify, like he says, as far as laundering money, it's just moving around numbers. And he never really thought of it as a criminal activity as such. It was like, oh, well, who is harmed by this? Mm-hmm. And then he kills a guy. And you can clearly see that weighing on his conscience.
Yeah, and that's going to come back to haunt him. I think from this point forward, we're finally going to start seeing him kind of break down. Mm-hmm. I think there's going to be a lot of discontent between him and his wife in this next season, and that character has finally started to kind of fall apart. So we'll see how it goes. But
I absolutely think this is going to end up becoming a marriage of convenience, and he is going to end up having a sordid, romance with Rachel.
I could see it. That we saw bits and pieces of that throughout the series, where you didn't know if she was coming on to him as part of the act because she was, trying to get information from him, but then things started to turn a little bit hot and heavy between Marty and Rachel. So I could see it happening. I mean, he he, other than the fact that he married Wendy, and he's trying to keep his family together, she is not making things easy for him.
No, I don't. Well, I don't think he wanted her a part of this in the first place. You know, you go back to season 1. I feel like he made himself very clear about that, like that this was kind of his racket, and he didn't want his kids or her to be involved. And he tried to get rid of them at the end of the season, and they were like, "No, we're, you know." This is sort of an allusion to, and I'm gonna say this, you know, knowing full well I never actually watched the show, but I feel like this makes sense what I'm about to say. Like it's an allusion to like almost like The Sopranos. For better or for worse, we're a family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, we are connected whether you like it or not, and that's certainly the message they try to sell on Charlotte, who's like, I don't want to be a criminal, I want to be a teenage girl. You know, and.
Yeah.
And you know, and the message that she receives back is, "But you are, you know,
you're part of it.
You are a part of this, whether you like it or not." Speaking of you're a part of this, whether you like it or not, let's talk about good old Laura Linney, the infamous Mrs. Byrde here. This was Laura Linney's season. Like really, the first season is all about Marty. You know, and establishing his connection in the Ozark, and really seeing him as like this. You know, this numbers guy who can, you know, think is, you know, who's swimming in shark-infested criminal waters, you know, and still and is able to keep his head above water despite things blowing up on an ongoing basis. This season shifts away from that as such, and is more about Laura Linney and what her contribution to this criminal enterprise is, and what she's all about, and how she's got some loose morals.
Yes. Yeah, her, like I said earlier, her political dealings, and anytime you're involved with the wheeling and dealing in politics, you know, even though you're not shoving your head and hands into the mud, you're dealing with it on a basis that makes it looks like your hands are clean. But that's not the case, you know, here with Wendy. I mean, she is – you wonder how she's going to play it first. And then there's that one episode where she talks that stripper into going and getting that guy to go to the hotel, that politician. I think, is it the politician's husband or it's the politician themselves? I can't remember.
Politician's husband.
Okay. So, and she goes and gets this guy in a compromising position, takes some pictures. You wondered at what lengths she would go. And there's a lot of talk about...
Can we just say outright what the compromising position was? He was tied up in ladies' underwear, blowing a dildo. Blowing it. Arrgh.
Oh, smile as she takes the picture, yeah. And there was the relationship, business-wise, political-wise, I would guess you would say, is he a senator? What was this guy that she was mostly dealing with?
He was a developer. He was a developer.
Developer? Okay. So they're trying, and this guy clearly had big political ties in the Ozarks and in the state of where they're at. Missouri, excuse me. It's Missouri, right? Tell me I'm right, Mark. Not Africa. Not Wales, Africa. It's the Ozarks, Missouri, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Put you on the spot, Mr. Geography. What was this guy's name? I can't remember this developer's name.
I'm looking for it now.
Okay.
Darren Goldstein as Charles Wilkes, a wealthy businessman and political donor.
There we go. Okay. All right. So, yeah, we get to see he's like the guy that can get stuff done. So Wendy starts dealing with this man, and there's hints of a potential romance. He's clearly got eyes for her. But
he was all over the fucking road on that.
Yeah, you didn't know if he was, going to try and make a move. At one point, he kind of did, and then he was like, "Well, it's a business relation."
Yeah, it's like I was just testing your ass.
Mm-hmm. It was a game, but yeah, she came off very strong. Wendy was a very strong character, especially at the end of this season. You see that she is pulling the strings now of this family, putting this family into either potentially saving them. Who knows? But
now this ends this is going to end badly. I mean, look, if watching all these criminal shows has taught me one thing, is that everyone ends up dead by the end of it.
You get out when you can. And Marty was there a fault in the plan here? Do you think there was a fault that Marty had in his plan to get away that Wendy saw? Or was she just like, you know what, I'm playing the odds here?
No,
and
she absolutely got like attracted to the idea of power.
Okay.
When the Mexican's lawyer, who's basically like the mouthpiece for the Mexican mob for the entire season, is like, you guys are now like local royalty, basically. You can have it all. And then her eyes are opened really to the possibility of where they're at. Whereas Marty's like, our daughter wants to run away, and our son got his head shaved. And it was like, bad day at the office, Pap.
I tell you, and you made a point. That was one of the moments I think for Wendy, for me, was when she had that one-on-one with the cartel's lawyer, where they, she clearly made her realize at that point, look, you're of the political persuasion. You gravitate towards that. People like us could use you in that position. So right then and there, you saw the wheels turning.
Right.
And
well, you
knew
talked
where
about,
she was going to go.
You talked about obviously where we're going to pivot to in the next season is the Byrdes versus the Kansas City mob. But unlike up to this point, they've just been tools used by the Mexican cartel, and they were valuable but still disposable. Certainly, there was the threat of death by the cartel looming, with every choice they made. That it was either get killed by the cartel or killed by the Snells. That's definitely the first season. Second season, not so much, but the threat is always looming. The next season, the dynamic changes considerably because they're not just out there on an island anymore, as sort of just a useful tool that can be disposed of if necessary. They're the front for the Mexican cartel in the Ozarks.
Yeah.
They're now in the family.
Like she said, we have friends.
Right.
We have friends now.
That's perfect. So when the Kansas City mob is like, well, we may have to break a leg or two, Jose and Pepe and Jesus are going to hop out of the fucking
Pepe.
Pepe, the gay waiter, will then jump out of the Ford Escalade. Ford Escalade, is that right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Cars.
Wales, Africa.
Right. Eric Idle. Wreck-Gar.
Wreck-Gar.
We'll jump out of the Escalade, Cadillac Escalade, and fucking light motherfuckers up. So it's a long way to go to get
cars.
Well, that was a long way to go for me to say light motherfuckers up. By the way. All right. Let's talk about the Snells.
Okay.
Good old Jacob and Darlene. I thought everything this season with regard to the Snells is about how Darlene is a fucking tornado.
She's a fucking psychopath, man.
Just this unpredictable, swirling wind of chaos. And I love, towards the end of the season, where we're building towards Jacob realizing that in order for his empire to continue, he has to deal with this unpredictable variable that continues to make life difficult for him.
Yeah. One of the most what the fuck moments for me with Darlene was when she grabbed some of the heroin of their own making that they were giving to the cartel just because she didn't like the way the cartel did business. She spikes the heroin. Her own heroin.
Right.
And, of course, that set into motion a lot of things.
Right.
But, that's where you're thinking, well, where is her head at? What is she trying to do?
Well,
why is she like this?
She's so concrete, Like, let us assume, the killing of Ash, which is a huge part of her motivation for being a psycho. if you take that out of there, she's still very concrete. Like just unwilling to bend. Like where Jacob can kind of see the writing on the wall and can make some moves in order to preserve what he holds dear. And so if you have to bend a little bit, if you have to kind of give an inch to gain a mile, okay, he's willing to do that. Where she's just like, just this unmalleable, concrete, like, no, they disrespected me. I need to set fire to the world. Like, typical fucking woman.
The perfect word to describe the Snells, and probably Darlene, at best, is prideful.
Yeah.
I mean, there is so much pride that Darlene takes it to this ridiculous level. I mean, just unreal what she's going to do just to protect what she felt is right. And to the point of sabotaging her own product and putting her...
Where Jacob is willing to see the forest for the tree, she's willing to burn down the forest.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
She's just like, well, she's like, you disrespected the trees, so they must all die.
Yeah.
I don't know why Darlene's like half a retard when I do it that way, but anyway.
Well,
life is like a box of chocolates. Give me a baby.
I'll just cut it out of you.
Yeah.
So, okay, I've got a moment for the Snells, and it may possibly be the same moment that really defines this couple, and that's when
they were having sex, and you get to see her,
and
you got to see the shadow outline of her saggy tits.
Whoo-wee! I rewound it 3 times. Hamina.
Mindy asked why you didn't come to bed on time that night, because you were watching that scene over and over and over.
Over and over. So the moment that definitely stuck out to me for these was, I think it was the second to last episode, where all this stuff had happened. Jacob cannot trust Darlene, and both of them intend to kill each other. That's what was going to happen. The question is which one was going to get to do it first.
Yeah. And it's so
that
funny.
Was compelling.
Because, like, anybody with even half a brain could see that Jacob was setting her up to be killed. She clearly saw it.
Yep.
How they wrote him as a character where he doesn't see it coming is beyond me. I think my favorite scene with Jacob, in all honesty, and it's not a scene where he gets the upper hand, but it's still like it's one of my favorite scenes of the whole season, is when Marty and the lawyer are with him in the diner after he's been shot. And they're explaining to him how the rights for the land beneath the water work.
Oh yeah.
And when he realizes that when they flooded the land, they essentially ceded their property to the federal government.
Fuck.
I mean, it's the most nuanced acting of any show I've seen, and so, I mean, like, little movements in the face and everything, but it's so good.
Yes. Yeah. Jason Bateman's a tremendous... he's directing all of these, right?
He's directing some of them, not all of them.
Okay, I wondered if he was doing all of them. But, that is a testament to the actors that were chosen to do these roles. And some of the shots, man, that... It's not a cinematic masterpiece, but regardless, I think there's a lot of emotion told without a lot of dialogue. Mm-hmm. So, I respect that from the show.
So, since you brought it up, and not my favorite character, so I'm going to cede a lot of the next part of the discussion to you.
Okay.
Let's talk about Mr. Mason, who I was done with after the first season. I thought he was a useful idiot, and he was essential to the plot and in as far as disrupting the heroin distribution on the lake. But this season, like, I was kind of glad when he was dead. Like he's just out there in the street with in the fucking cold with a baby.
Well, I won't begrudge you the fact that I also did not like the way that this character was treated this season. Mm-hmm. Now, do you remember specifically his character in the first season? He was one of the things I remember was about how he had told the story about him trying to find his faith. He walks into a liquor store and gets shot, and he lives through this, and because of that, he attributes that to God, and that's what led him to become a preacher. And then, by the end of the season, his wife is dead. His newly born baby was cut out of his wife, and in a fit of I won't call it desperation, just him trying to figure things out, he clearly goes a little bit insane and tries to drown the kid. I think it was near the end, if not the final episode.
That's right. Season. I remember talking about that with you. I was horrified.
Yeah, he tries to drown the kid, and you're like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? And then the kid comes up, and he's alive after he clearly should have drowned.
Right.
Now, right there was my point where I was like,
in fucking real life, if your kid falls in a puddle, they'll probably drown.
I was like, this means something. And this guy, what I wanted to happen in my headcanon was at some point going to come back and with some humongous grudge on his plate, he was going to throw a huge wrench into the Snell's plans and into the Byrde's plans as well. But instead, he comes back as a pretty much mentally broken person. He's still trying to gather his sanity, I guess you would say. He's trying to preach. Go ahead.
I nodded off, and like his one big episode was the one where he kidnaps Laura Linney and then ends up getting shot.
Yeah,
I nodded off through that episode.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Well, I didn't know. I wrote down here, and let me see if I can get to my notes. I did not like the way he was treated. I thought he could have been a better character.
Sure.
He could have been an avenging angel is what I was wanting it to be. That's what I was wanting to happen. But his return and his downfall was probably one of my favorite moments and worst moments of the show combined. What do you think of that? That's a yes answer for you. What was your favorite moment and what was your worst moment? Yes. Because
my, how feminine of you.
Yeah. Mason
Hey,
I'm moving on.
Hey, Jesse.
I'm moving on.
Wait a sec. That's a horse.
There went the horse.
There went the horse. Come here, horsey.
He is dead. But Mason served a purpose in the fact that clearly his life was ruined.
Nobody knows why we're making all of these, boo
horse
females.
jokes?
No, why I'm making all of these, anti-woman jokes tonight.
Because I got typical Radlich. But yeah, they set this guy up to be, I think, so much at the end of last season. It just completely fell flat here. He tried to drown his son on the last season. His son lives, so I think this guy is going to either go away happy or come back as some crazed avenging angel. I know that was high hopes, but that's what I wanted out of this guy. Instead, he flips his shit. And one could argue when he tried to kill his kid, he had flipped then. Yeah. But you wanted this guy to live. You wanted this guy to be happy in some way after the tragedy that befell him. Instead, his life is absolutely ruined by, and it's also eventually taken by the Byrdes.
I got to go back to Laura Linney for just a second. Normally, I make the joke of so and so is went to the school of terrible women, the Nancy Botwin school of terrible women. And that's mostly a joke I make for Genji Cohen shows. Orange is the New Black, Weeds, Glow, etc.
Stuff my wife watches.
Yeah, all right. But
boom.
But I have to say, and I have to give the writers of the show a lot of credit. Laura Linney, not the worst wife I've ever seen in television. Certainly not as bad as Skylar or whatever the hell her name was in Breaking Bad.
Oh, yeah, she got grading. My gosh.
Yeah, she was like a 10 on the Adrian scale.
Mm-hmm.
And for those that don't know,
sir.
we're talking about Adrian Balboa from the Rocky movies. The worst wife in the history of film and television.
So anyway, yeah, I think that Mason served a purpose this season. While I didn't like the way he was treated, the fact that Marty Byrde had to kill him in order to save his wife in front of his own son, clearly he's just a baby, but either way, that turns out to be a whole debacle because now they have to get rid of the body. They have to figure out what to do with Mason's son as well, which, like you said, ends up in the hands of Darlene. But I just wanted more for this guy. I didn't want him to go out like this, and you see that that's the way he wanted to go. He wanted to get killed.
Now, if you decide that you're ever going to get into a life of crime, that you need to spend the money that you make on at least owning one funeral parlor, so that way you can disintegrate the bodies.
Oh yeah, perfect place to keep the money.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. We I think Ozarks has spoiled that for us. We're gonna have to come up with a new idea.
Yeah, to all the investigative bodies out there, check the funeral parlors. We've got some cold murder cases. Follow the money. Check to see who owns the funeral parlors. You'll find the murderers.
There you go.
All right, let's change gears here. Like I said, I was not interested in his character. I agree with you that I think they could have written him better this season. He's probably like the I don't want to say the worst written character because this really is a superior show. There's not a whole lot about it I don't like. It looks great. It's acted well. The story is phenomenal. Every episode this season, for the most part, with the exception of that one, that was the only one where I was like, I can go to bed now, and I did. But
it's probably one of the ones. Well, I wouldn't say it's one of the ones with the most action, but I mean, I'd say with the most tension. But damn, all right, Mark, you're a cold-hearted bastard.
So I've been told. I've been told I'm a bossy bastard.
All right then.
God, I hope nobody I know is listening to this.
I remember that day specifically.
Hey, that's an issue from earlier today, that asshole. Anywho. Bossy asshole. Wait a minute now.
All right, who's next?
The Langmores. Let's talk about Ruth. Let's talk about dirty old Cade, and then, gosh, the what the fuck is the brother's name?
We had three.
One of them is three.
Yep. Can't forget three. And then we have.
That is the best name of a character since Seven.
Oh yeah, Wyatt, the promising, the one with all the promise.
Right. Hey, do you remember from Married with Children? They had a kid for a season. And the kid's name was Seven. Do you remember that?
No, I do not. They had a kid?
They ended up adopting a kid. And,
okay.
And I remember. I can't remember how the kid was related to them.
Last season or something.
It was close. And I think when that season did not do very well, and they kind of needed to do a soft reboot to what worked, which is the original cast.
Yeah.
The whole season with Seven was basically imagined. It was like a dream in Peg's mind.
Nice.
But do you know why the kid's name was Seven?
I have no idea why.
Because his father had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 children.
Oh, jeez. Well, that right there makes me wonder about 3. Was their dad and was their dad? What was the dad and the son that got killed? Right. Okay, gotcha. So there were 3 kids at one time. Am I right?
Yep. It was Russ. Russ was his name. Was his dad?
Okay. All right. And then so continue the Langmores. What do you got to say about the Langmores?
So Ruth, this season, her whole deal is that she's caught between her surrogate father, who's adopted her and treated her with nothing but respect and has given her everything she's wanted, and she has no reason to fuck over, in Marty, and her biological dad, who, because she's a fucked up kid, still feels a sense of loyalty to and wants to do right by him and wants his love and affection, but he's a sociopath and really only uses Ruth to get get whatever short-term goal he's after.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now that Ruth was, I don't know, she was clearly evoked some strength in this season, but a lot of vulnerability.
I just feel like she didn't grow much this season. Like the whole season essentially is like you don't see Darlene killing Jacob at the beginning of the season, right?
No.
Like that really, like the fact that that's where they went with it was kind of a surprise. Like you might have seen it coming in context of that episode, but from episode 1, you're not like, oh, we're just building to Darlene killing Jacob. That's the end. That's where the train's going to land on, pull into the station at the end of this season. Whereas that is the case with Ruth. As soon as Cade came home, you're like, oh, okay, so Ruth's whole story is her going on to live without her dad. And then they took Cade away from her, and she didn't do anything. He's killed by the mob.
Yeah.
And so I felt like they robbed us of a great moment for Ruth, because I feel like her stuff with the dad is unresolved. She gets to continue to be loyal to Marty without having sacrificed anything, because she's not the one that did it. Now, they've set up a potential feud between her and Laura Linney in the future, if it ever gets out that she was responsible for that.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, it's like, if we were building towards, this is like WWE booking. Everyone take a drink. We're building towards X. Swerve, brah. We're going to do Y.
Yeah. Her relationship with her dad took center stage throughout here. Cade was a... Man, I don't know. Speaking of pride, this is another family that, number one, Cade looks at their family name, a Langmore, that you have to be this dirty, low-down, rotten thief, but you're a Langmore nonetheless, and you're not going to run. I mean, that night that they were making that stand against the cartel when the cartel was coming, and it was just Cade, and I was like, whoa, I mean, this guy really does he's either an idiot, which he pretty much is, but he's also a really strong. He's got a real strong sense of character, even though he's a real shitbag. A lot of it also is about trying to get out from under that Langmore name, the Langmore curse. Wyatt talks a lot about that in his essay, which I think is one of the stronger moments for Wyatt in this season, when Ruth is trying to get Wyatt to go to Mizzou for college and get out from the Ozarks, go make something of yourself, and he clearly is the one that has the most promise. But no matter what, it seems like he just either does not have the motivation to do that, or he's just like, look, I'm a Langmore. This is what I'm here to do. He gets involved, I think, with Cade when they go to rob the strip club. And it's just over and over, Ruth wants the best for Wyatt, and it just feels like he keeps stepping back. But that essay really shines a big light on his idea of his standing in life as a Langmore, where he talks about how it's a curse. This is the kind of life I live. And that essay was, to try and get him into college. Not only that, but Ruth has to struggle with the fact that she killed his dad, and he has no idea. So we don't know. And Cade knows it, and he holds that over her the whole season. And until finally she's like, screw you, I'm done with you holding that over me. And she tells Wyatt what she did. It's definitely an interesting family. Ruth herself is a very strong character, but like I said, we see a lot of her vulnerability here. One of the moments I wrote down for her was her getting waterboarded by the cartel.
Yeah, that's a rough scene.
That clearly affected her for the rest. Obviously, that's going to stay her for the rest of her life. But yeah, I mean, next day she's trying to shower.
Don't be concerned about waterboarding. Not fun.
The next day she's trying to shower and she can't have the water on her face because it traumatized her that much. So anyway, I like the Langmores. Cade, I can come into him. I hate the fact that at times Ruth had a knife or a gun on her back, and you wanted her to do something, but she didn't.
Yeah, see, you and I had that whole discussion in the OTEP review about guns or whatever. See, you just have to make sure that that they're that the person pointing the gun at you has even a moment of hesitation. You can just take the gun right out of their hand.
Well, I'm not going back to that discussion.
No.
Get safe. No. Get unlocked. No. Hey, you. Are you here to rob me? Or are you a home invade? Okay. I won't shoot if you're here to rob me. Go ahead. Remember that discussion?
Very
You were like, home invasion's a bit different. You don't want to shoot a man. I don't know if did you try to tell me that I didn't want to shoot a guy if he was there to rob me?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. So I can still shoot him if he's there to rob me? I'm all right with that?
Jesse Starcher.
Next character.
you just want to shoot the children who are toilet papering your yard.
Fucking kids. I swear. I'll catch them one of these days. I'll fuzzy lumpkins their ass.
That's really it. That's all I got. Those are the main characters. Those are the main story points here. Like I said, I love this season. I really, almost every single episode ended in such a way that like I binge watched. I think like the first 7 episodes on a Friday night before I went to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning. And that wasn't even because I had to cram as much in as possible because nobody will leave me the fuck alone long enough for me to actually watch a TV show. Did I say that out loud? I mean, I'm busy on the weekends. Anywho, but I literally couldn't pull myself away from the TV, to stop it until the thing with Mason and the baby and all that. And I was like, and this is as good a place as any to stop this. I no longer care what's going to happen next. But every other episode, the stuff with the FBI agent and Rachel, and just every episode there was another thing. You're like, oh my god, how are they going to handle this? What's Marty going to? He's been betrayed again. that sort of thing. And when it ends, I love the way it ends. If they decided that that's the end of the season, that's the end of the series, I think it ends just fine. If it gets renewed for a third season, and from what I understand, Jason Bateman said it takes about 6 months of shooting to put these together, and he's like, I need some time with my family, so he's like, we have material for more Ozarks, but it's not coming until 2020.
Oh wow.
Because he apparently has to shoot on location, and that's time away from his family, and so he's like, yeah, I need to be home for a little while and make more movies like fucking Tag and Game Night. My final thoughts on the season, like I said, I think it was as good as the first. We had some character development, some new characters show up, some pass away. Rest in peace, buddy. And yes.
I look forward to season 3. That's for sure, because we've got a whole new set of rules for this family in the Ozarks, and it can't come sooner. But I'll be anxiously awaiting it when it drops there.
All right, so that wraps up our discussion of Ozark season 2. Jesse, did you have fun tonight, despite my constant references to personal stuff?
Rekgar. I had a blast, dude. I'm glad we got to do it. I can't wait to talk about season 3.
All right, well, you and I will do it again tomorrow when we talk about Power Glove. Continue on the Metal Hammer of Doom. Here's all the rest of the plugs, all the news that's fit to print. On Monday, we released Deadpool Dracula's Gauntlet with Justin Thomas. He guested on that show. The aforementioned Power Glove. We're going to talk about Bill Cosby on Thursday. The rise and fall of Bill Cosby. It's sort of a post-mortem on his career. He did a bad thing, and I don't think anybody on the show is going to disagree with that, though Pat's on there. He may have some alternative notion as to, bitches be whores. He brought it on himself. Cosby didn't do nothing.
Geez.
I don't know.
Pat Mullen.
Pat Toxic...
Hot take Pat Mullen, as I call him.
That's right. Hot takes Pat Mullen, otherwise known as Mr. Toxic Masculinity. So we'll talk about the good and the bad of Bill Cosby. Just sort of closing the book on that man's life as he goes off to prison for 20 minutes. Anywho, next week it's all Venom all the time. We've got Lethal Protector. Jesse, we had a guest on. We're gonna have a guest on that show. Who's on that one?
That, my friend, was Chris Armstrong from the UnspokenDecade.com. So, yeah, he got to join us. We had a good time.
In theory, he'll even be back despite my, despite my odd behavior. And then, of course, Damn You Hollywood. Jason Teasley, formerly from the Cheap Seats, now who's offering some football commentary on WTM. He'll be on Damn You Hollywood to discuss Venom, which apparently... Now, see if you can follow this.
All right.
DC fans are disguising themselves as Gaga fans and writing negative reviews of Venom in order to tank the movie.
Wait. So, DC fans... So fans of DC Comics
don't want another Marvel movie to be successful, so they're out there writing trolling reviews of the movie, but they're not claiming themselves to be DC fans, they're claiming to be Gaga fans. So they're trying to deflect the attention onto A Star Is Born, where it's really DC fans trying to tank a movie because the DC cinematic universe is a pile of hot garbage.
And I'm sure there are mountains of proof that this is going on.
Did you see that a lot of the reviews for The Last Jedi was actually trolling fucking Russian bots?
Oh, nice.
Have you heard this?
No, I have not.
This is yet another one of the stories that was on Facebook today.
And then I assume there was mountains of evidence to support that as well.
Absolutely. There's no such thing as fake news. Get the fuck out of here.
Get the fuck out of here.
All right, so it's all covers all month long on the Metal Hammer of Doom. We'll be looking at Mystic Prophecy next week. Monuments Uncovered. Hot stuff, baby. Hot stuff tonight. The following week, we've got Batman Haunted Night, which is a collection of Legends of the Dark Knight comics having to do with Halloween and scary things. Scary tings, Jesse Starcher.
Scary tings.
Another year has passed. It's another Halloween, so therefore it's another year to talk about Hannibal Lecter. TV Party Tonight, Hannibal Season 2. If you haven't seen it, it's new to you. And then on Wednesday, Devil Driver Outlaws Till the End. The following week, we've got a little Halloween, a little Daredevil, a little Burn the Priest. We're going to be looking at Daredevil Born Again on source material. We're going to be doing the Damn You Hollywood review for the new Halloween movie, which is now in continuity, the sequel to the first Halloween, and Halloween 2 is now out of continuity. Did you get all that? There'll be a quiz later.
Wow, and I read comics. Couldn't follow that shit.
Burn the Priest, Legion XX, or Legion 20, whatever you like. And then finally, Daredevil Season 3, Hotsy Totsy. And finally, we end October with all things Halloween. We've got Halloween Night Dance, the comic I'm going to try not to shit my pants. We got On Trial Halloween 2. We've got Trick or Treat, our fun boys from Italy with their cover album Reanimated. And finally, now, are you joining us for this? Are you going to be hip to be square?
Oh, I'm hip to be square. What is it?
Spaced Invaders.
Oh, well, I'll try to make it on there.
We'll be doing a commentary. Yes, Justin Thomas pitched me this idea. He said it's the anniversary of the War of the Worlds broadcast, so we're going to be doing that Thursday, November 1st. And that caps off Halloween season all month long here on the Rattledge and Broadcasting Network.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, speaking of the Rattledge Broadcasting Network, go give the Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts that we have to offer. We will usually kind of throw our links over there, and you can interact with anybody else who is a fan of the Rattledge Broadcasting Network, including those that star upon the podcasts. That's right. Other than that, you can catch us on Stitcher, TuneIn Radio. We're right here at home on Spreaker. We're on Spotify, which is one of the newest platforms that you can catch us on. All you have to do is type in RADULICH. I think I spelled that right. And then you will find the Rattledge Broadcasting Network. You can subscribe, you can rate, do all that fun stuff. We'd appreciate it. We'd love to hear from you. Other than that, my name's Jesse Starcher. I turn it over to you, Mark Rattledge. Take us out of here.
Oh, sexy girlfriends, it's been a time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here on TV Party Tonight. Jesse Starcher, thanks for hanging out with me tonight and talking Ozark and putting up with all my nonsense. We'll see you again soon. For Jesse Starcher of the Source Material Podcast, I'm your mandated reporter, Mr. Mark Rattledge, and frankly, I'm mortified. Be well, be safe, and good God, behave.
Welcome to the Total Wireless Store, where total confidence awaits.
My boss says I'm going to be traveling a lot for business, so I need network coverage that works as hard as I do.
Don't worry, you got this with Total Wireless. Our phones run on the nation's largest, most dependable 4G LTE network.
The nation's largest network? That definitely works.
Now you can focus on the important stuff, like getting your expense reports done on time.
Discover the Total Wireless stores and get total confidence. The latest phones, the best network, all at great prices. Now open in Miami. Refer to the latest terms and conditions of service at TotalWireless.com.